Welcome to Nacho Fitness Coach,
the podcast where fitness is more about fun than form.
I'm Sarah, the fitness expert who lifts heavy and loves a good challenge.
And I'm Kaylee, a newbie who runs more for survival than sport.
We're here to remind you that fitness doesn't have to be serious,
but we definitely take the snacks seriously.
So if you're looking for some laughs and a few questionable fitness tips,
you've come to the right place. Welcome to season 5. Hey, welcome back to Nacho Fitness Coach, the podcast where I'm just here and Sarah finds all the guests.
True. I feel like I do.
You do.
Find most of them.
I find really good ones, so I'm not complaining.
I kind of cheated a little bit for our guest today because...
Yeah, you recycled.
I did. A little bit.
That's fair. That's fine.
That's okay. It's environmentally friendly.
Exactly. You see? So there we go. Yes. So Kaylee, we have a guest.
Awesome.
Daphne Bascom's back with us for this episode, which I'm super excited about. So welcome, Daphne.
Welcome.
Well, glad to be back. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. So if you listen to season 5, which is our current season, episode 1, we had Daphne on as a guest and we talked about nutrition and workouts and kind of her online coaching, that she does through the vegan gym. She has a very decorated experience level through kind of the years. She's MD, PhD, is now the chief operating officer for the vegan gym. We connected through healthcare IT background. She's got population health experience, has moved over and was the director or senior vice president and medical director for the YMCA in Kansas City, moved on and has done a lot of things with health systems. Her full bio will be in the show notes, and we did a lot more detail.
Yeah, because it's extensive.
It's impressive. It's impressive. And so, but we want to be sure and share those with you because, she definitely has credentialed her knowledge in herself, and she lives and walks and all the things about health, wellness, fitness, and is an amazing coach. So we did not get to some pretty important topics on our list during the last conversation, which were stress, sleep, and social environment. And so we had to have her back to chat more about those because they are so important. So here we are.
Yep. The three S's.
The 3 S's. I know. I kind of like that. I mean, that is a whole thing.
Oh, you just found the name for the title for this episode.
There we go. It's the 3 S's. Just name what they are. Try to get people to guess. So we're gonna try to hit on all of those, and we'll see how good of a job we do.
Stress and social environment.
Yeah. Okay. So Daphne, of those 3, which one would you like to start with?
Let's start with sleep.
Okay.
And maybe we can start with, if you don't mind my asking, how much do each of you sleep?
I am a huge sleep fan. I've always done the 7 to 9 hours like Coach preached for people. I personally am happy at like 8 hours ish. Like that's where I find myself that I will like wake up on my own. The trick for me is that I have to make myself get to bed in time. When I've got little kids and they're up early, if I start rabbit holing down on my computer at night, I can feel it the next day if I don't get to bed in time, because I'll get maybe closer to 7 versus the 8 and I really struggle. So, but this has actually been a recent habit change for Kaylee. So I'll let her share.
Yeah, I would say it has been the most solid habit for me. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people do struggle with it. My kids are getting older. We go to bed at 9. My husband and I, we go to sleep at 9. If we don't go to sleep at 9, our alarms get, set for later in the morning because we are going to get those 8 hours of sleep. But I don't have, babies and toddlers waking me up in the middle of the night. And I realize that's a luxury. Not everybody has. So we go to bed at 9 and we wake up at 5 pretty much.
That's a more recent habit for you. That has not been a lifelong.
No, definitely has not been a lifelong habit, but it has been
the last couple
few years. Yeah. And now if I'm like this morning, my alarm wasn't set because we didn't get in till late last night. But I still woke up at 5. I went back to sleep, but
your body woke up.
Yeah.
Is that the range that you coach and encourage people to kind of fall within, or kind of what's your perspective on that range and recommendations for people?
So I love the fact that both of you prioritize sleep. Most people don't realize that sleep is important. And I know that, for many years, and when we were working together, Sarah, it was almost a badge of honor to work long. and work overly long.
Yeah.
And that's not the way to live. So I really recommend that people find a routine, just as both of you have, with a goal to get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. But your sleep, a good night's sleep starts several hours before you go to bed.
Yeah.
So what is that wind down routine that you can implement where you can start to wind down, but create a consistent habit to say, computer off, phone off, do some meditation or some mindful breathing, get ready for tomorrow, and then get yourself to bed before you need to be in bed to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
So you like data. I like data because that's part of what attracted us to, I think, to my former corporate career. But about a year ago, we had some friends that introduced us to, so we invested in for like their Black Friday sale.
Oh, I forgot about this.
The 8 Smart Sleep Mattress. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Yep.
Oh, the amount of data that you get. And it is amazing. I mean, it has been so great. You see how well your sleep is. It makes adjustments on the temperature to try to increase your REM, like percentage of REM. Yeah. And then you get this full report, like in the morning when you wake up, it tells that you got up out of bed and it's like, oh, did you start your day? Here's your report. And so there's all of these metrics and information and things that you can, it's not just about how much time you're asleep, it's what's your quality of sleep.
Yeah.
What are your cycles looking like? And so we got started with that. And then not too long after that, I don't know how I tripped upon it, but it's an app called Rise, Rise. And it looks like a little really colorful, like sunset on the app. And so because I connected the 8 sleep mattress to my Apple Health profile, then Rise will connect through that. And then it gives me it'll give me my melatonin window at night. So just because I tell my mattress to warm on at a certain time, that's not necessarily when my melatonin window is going to be. So it will send me a text message when I'm approaching my melatonin window. It will tell me, congratulations, you have had a successful day. Now it's time to wind down. And for whatever reason, getting permission from my cell phone to say, it's time to wind down. I'm like, oh yes, I did have a productive day. Thank you. And I shut stuff off.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I did. Thank you for that permission. And so it gives me my window.
I like that.
And then it pulls in the information through the health kit, through the smart mattress. And then in the morning, it will tell me where my circadian rhythm, like circle is or my wave is. And it will tell me when I have my my morning energy peak, that afternoon like lull, when to stop drinking caffeine so that you don't have the effects later. And then it will tell you, okay, starting at 5:20 tonight, it's going to be your energy peak from 5:20 to 8:21.
Wow.
So if you want to be productive, I'm like, well, this is right during my kid's bedtime. Like, why do I need to be productive now? Can we shift it like an hour? And so,
oh my God.
But anyways, data, sleep.
Yeah.
Those things have actually it's cranked it up a notch, but
yeah. Well, and you talk about quality of sleep just recently. My husband's always been a snorer. He comes from a family of snorers and, obviously it affects my sleep, but realizing as we're getting older, I think he realized like, I don't think I'm sleeping well. He doesn't remember his dreams, and he was like, how much is this actually affecting my daily life? He feels like he sleeps. But, and so he finally got a CPAP machine, which has not gone great. There have been more nights without it, but that's a big adjustment. And I get it because that's a whole different, like, I don't think I'd want that thing on my face. But yeah, recognizing the things that, whether you think you're getting that sleep, the lights on in your room or that bedtime routine. It's like you can't just hop in bed after scrolling your phone for 3 hours. And we learn that when we have newborn babies or infants is that to give them those cues, give their body those cues to start winding down and going to sleep. We need those too. And I don't think a lot of people realize you have to kind of like turn the lights down and turn the screens off, and you shower before bed.
Oh, I have a whole thing.
I know.
And if it's out of sorts, like,
so. And I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing for everybody, but have those things that you do.
Consistently.
Do you have a wind down routine? What's your wind down routine look like?
My wind down routine, usually I start with the lighting. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is maybe 2 to 3 hours before you want to go to bed, start to lower the lights.
Our
Even
house
if I'm still
automatically does
working.
it. Our lights start automatically turning down.
That's amazing. And then I also lower the temperature because temperature is important. So ambient temperature and your bed temperature. So the 8 Sleep mattress is amazing. And then I have my smartphone is already set to go turn off notifications after 7 p.m., except for people that I definitely need to hear from. And depending on what's going on in life, how busy I am, whether it's going to be a hot shower, I also have a higher dose mattress, kind of sauna bed, sauna
Me
blanket.
too.
And there's nothing better than getting in the higher dose for 30 minutes right before I crawl into bed.
Do you do that every night?
For a while, I was doing it every night, and sometimes I fell asleep in there.
I would say I need to get mine more consistent, like, because I actually have the higher dose one as well. Like the one that looks like a sleeping bag.
It looks like a sleeping bag.
I gifted that to myself one year for Christmas. I said it was from my husband, but I bought it and I put your name on it. There we go. I think it's maybe time for a little quick ad break. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Nacho Fit Coach.
Okay, we're back.
But I want to get into that more consistent routine because I think that would be amazing.
I love it. It's very relaxing.
Yep.
I set it for 30 minutes, but as I said, I sometimes fall asleep. And then usually after that, just roll into bed. Part of the routine also is I try not to eat after about 7 p.m. because I've noticed just from looking at my own data, if I try not to eat about 2 hours before bedtime, sometimes it'll be 6 p.m. I actually sleep better. So not having a lot of food on my stomach is very restful for me. And the other thing is the bedroom is for sleep and sex. So no television in the bedroom. I'll have my phone, but that's it. No laptop, no nothing else.
I had never considered paying attention to when I ate in relation to my bedtime.
Sleep?
No, but I'm sure. Yeah, because I will sometimes, like while I'm winding down, be like, I'm kind of a little hungry. Maybe I should eat a little snack.
Yeah. But
maybe I should be eating my meals better during the day and not pushing them so close to bedtime. Because I wonder if that would have an effect.
If it's something you can track.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kaylee.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
One thing that I just thought of this on my own a while back because Sarah and I did an episode about sleep, I don't know, at some point. And we talked about all the things that, like Sarah uses mouth tape and she puts a mask over her eyes. And I talked about
weighted blanket.
And I talked about, all the things that I need to go to physical things that we like needed to go to sleep. And after what, because I was listening to like sleep stories in my earbud. And all of a sudden I was like, I think it would be best if I don't have physical things that I need to help me sleep. And so I did away with, other than my blankie.
It's a physical thing, but it's fine.
But like, you know what, because if for some reason you ever don't have those things or you don't have access to those things, how are you going to be able to sleep? I don't know. Just a thought.
It is a thought.
So I don't
know that I'll be giving up my eye mask anytime soon.
I know, but yeah, and you put all kinds of stuff. I can't put all that stuff on my face. I feel.
Do you know what? The mouth tape helps me more in the winter when it's dry because I do not like waking up with my mouth like my throat dry. Like if if my mouth was open a little bit while I was sleeping.
Why don't you just put a bag over your head?
Well, that's pretty much what it feels like it is. That would not be safe.
That's not advisable.
That is not. That would be a suffocation hazard. Okay. What are you trying to do to me?
And that's a good point. So from the perspective of your community, I think keeping it simple is the best way to start. If you're trying to establish a new sleep habit, don't feel like you have to go out and buy all the gadgets.
Yeah,
right.
If you can keep it simple, start with a consistent bedtime, a consistent wake time.
Yeah.
Trying to do all of the things that allow you to wind down, then you can figure out what you need to layer on top of it to optimize your sleep.
Yeah, I just felt like I was kind of getting to a point where I was like, I needed this and I needed this and I needed to have this and wear this and like I just want to be able to sleep.
You're low maintenance. I'm high maintenance.
Yeah,
I think we've established this already. So now
I actually also figured out this thing where if I just wiggle my toes, I go right to sleep, like almost instantly. Just wiggling my toes.
Is this scientifically proven?
I mean,
it's just Keely.
It's a thing that no, it's not science. I just started doing it.
Oh.
If I just have like a pattern where I just like wiggle my toes. Fun fact.
You like a little progressive muscle relaxation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I'm having a hard time sleeping, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to wiggle my toes. And I'm out.
Hey, you do you.
I do.
If it works,
You know I do.
Just keep going. You just keep going.
But from the perspective of women, there's a couple of things to think about too. That glass of wine that you may have while you're making dinner to wind down, not so good for your sleep.
Yeah.
The same for women of a certain age, that you may start to see through perimenopause, going into postmenopause, that your sleep is disrupted. That was when I was in perimenopause that I actually started measuring my sleep, because I was like, I am going crazy. I have no idea why I can't sleep, or trying to understand what was going on. But the hormonal changes that occur during perimenopause and postmenopause are definitely things that can also contribute to disrupted sleep. So women, if you're experiencing that, you're not crazy. It's understanding what you can do to help get back into a healthy sleep cycle.
What are some things that can be done to help get in a healthy sleep cycle? All the things we already talked about, just the patterns, the schedules, the consistency, the winding down, the cutting down on the blue light, the technology, all the stuff, the lights.
You've nailed it.
All that fun stuff.
And then before we move on to the next topic.
We're ready to move on already? I'm not done talking about sleep.
We have a time.
Oh, she's actually watching the time for us.
I have heard, and I have not looked into it, but I've heard multiple times that women need more sleep than men. Is this true?
I don't think that there's I'm not aware that is the case.
Okay.
That there's a gender difference between men or women needing more sleep. Now, there are age ranges for the average number of hours of sleep, youth versus adults versus seniors.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really differentiated it significantly for men versus women.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I had seen men need like 7 to 8 or...
On TikTok?
I don't know where I saw it. Mind your own business. But
Well, she scrolls on TikTok a lot, so I'm like,
here and there.
It's a source
not before bed.
It's a source of information.
There is information.
Everything online is true.
I have seen it more than just there.
Okay.
So,
2 quick references before we move on. If you read Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep, great data there. And if you want to dig into looking at, and I was actually seeing if I could pull it up on a slide, the National Sleep Foundation has a lot of great recommendations that cover everything that we just talked about.
I think it's a graph or like a bar graph of theirs, I think is what I have on one of my presentations that I give that's based on the age.
Yep.
And that's, because I've done some presentations at our high school or, at different community events, and I bring that graph up and talk about, find your age. Where are you supposed to be? I mean, our high schoolers are not sleeping in their recommended range at all. And so that's, the first thing that definitely needs to get addressed, because those are lifelong healthy habits that will compound if you're cutting things short as you're trying to grow and all that stuff too. But then, when I did have a chance to speak at a local women's dinner several years ago, I'm like, ladies, 6.5 does not round up to 7. I know in math you're taught that you can round up if it's above 0.5 or whatever. But, because I over and over and over again, as I would interview new onboarding personal training clients, I'd be like, how many hours a night are you sleeping? They'll be like, 6.5. I would get that so much from women. It'd be 6 to 6.5. And I'm like, 6.5 is not good enough. And that's even if you're just crawling into bed and waking up, that's not accounting for the time that you're taking to fall asleep and all this stuff. And it's no, it does not round up at all.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe time for a little quick ad break.
For more content, follow us on TikTok at Nacho Fitness Coach. Okay, we're back.
And you don't catch up.
Right.
So I agree with you. You can't round up. And you definitely, I think people tend to think, I'll catch up on the weekend. That sleep debt doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's not like your banking account, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Or definitely not that just, 14 hours of sleep to make up for
Mm-hmm.
4 hours
Right.
during the week or whatever. It's not that dramatic and you can't, that just doesn't happen. So, all right, some great resources then to check out too, if you're looking for some information. Okay, so stress. Are we moving on? Or social? Which one's next?
Let's go to stress, because I think stress can be related to sleep.
Okay.
And again, let me pose a question to either of you. You have no stress in your life, right?
No.
None.
None. Sarah's the only stress in my life.
So
You're welcome.
stress, there's different types of stress. There's stress in the acute phase, like being on the podcast or getting ready for a podcast or getting ready for a race or a wedding. That acute stress is good. That's something that we will call eustress, EUSTRESS. And those are episodic periods of stress where they're usually for good reasons. But many of us are wired and tired because we're chronically stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And chronic stress, chronic elevations in your cortisol, those are not good for your long-term physiology, for your heart, your brain, your body, your mood.
Mm-hmm.
Chronic stress is it's something that many men and women deal with, and it's something that we need to acknowledge and find ways to better manage stress. Not get rid of it. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But how are you managing stress?
Do you think a lot of that is because there's just a sleep debt situation going on? Like people are not giving themselves enough rest and recovery every single night to reset? Or do you think it's external, like environmental factors just day in and day out that are compounding?
Yes and yes.
Both.
I think that the not being able to turn off your brain or having that you wake up. There are times I've awakened in the middle of the night and just thought, oh, I forgot this.
Yeah.
So finding ways to turn off your brain so that you can get a good night's sleep. And then for anyone who wakes up in the middle of the night, learning how to get back to sleep or how to make sure that you don't let that stress you out, because it's 2:00 in the morning and you're like, my alarm's going to go off in 2 hours. And then you get into this vicious cycle of, so I think sleep and stress are related, but then it's also managing just the daily stress and finding ways, even if it's 5 minutes during the middle of the day or 5 minutes toward the end of the day. Sometimes I'll coach some of the clients I'll say, when you get in the car to go to work or when you get in the car to come home, take 5 minutes and just do some mindful breathing. How are you managing the stress during the day? Because that accumulated stress of you've got meetings, you've got children, you've got spouses, you've got partners, you've got all of these demands on you. You need to find a way to bring yourself down intermittently during the day. And it doesn't have to take hours. It's not going into a dark room and meditating, whether it's box breathing, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's 4-7-8 breathing, finding something that you can do to help you center yourself and just de-stress a little bit.
Do you have any suggestions for those people that do wake up at like 2 a.m. in the middle of the night? I mean, my guess would be the first thing you should not do is roll over and grab your phone and be like, well, I'm awake and I'm just going to start start throwing that light back in there. I mean, that sounds like the worst plan, but I'm guessing that's probably what happens most of the time.
Yeah.
So, is there suggestions or recommendations for that person that is now finding themselves wide awake at 2:00 in the morning? Like, how is it? Is there suggestions?
Just wiggle your toes.
Just wiggle your toes. That's what Kaylee says. Wiggle your toes. I'm like, just make sure my sleep mask is on straight. Or I'll do like 3 or 4 deep breaths. I mean, I really do feel like if you have mindful deep breathing and you actually take in an extra deep breath and slow yourself down, it does not take more than just a couple of big deep breaths to relax enough to go back. But I mean, what else? Is there any other ideas for people?
A couple of thoughts would be if there's something that you need to remember, write it down. So if you have a journal or a piece of paper, not necessarily on your phone, because once you turn on your phone, again, you've got that bright light coming at you. But if you wake up and you just need to write something down so you remember it, have a little notepad or a sticky pad by your bedside that you can jot it down. And Sarah, I agree with you. If you wake up and you need to find a way to get back to sleep, you can do lots of different tricks, the counting, the progressive start from your toes and try to relax up to your head. Occasionally I'll turn on a headspace sleep meditation or a calm sleep meditation, just to have something in my head other than my own thoughts to help me get back to sleep. But if you can't get back to sleep, what you don't want to do is to associate your bed with wakefulness. There are times when it may be better to get up, get into a recliner, go outside of your bedroom until you're sleepy again, and then go back into your bedroom. But ideally, if you can implement some relaxation technique in 5 to 10 minutes to get yourself back to sleep, that's the best thing to do.
I never considered that, associating that bed with, your behavior, but I like that because it's not, you mentioned babies earlier, like it's not any different than the routines that we put in place a lot for like kids. Yeah. I mean, a lot of those same things are, we can just tell ourselves and we're not checking the boxes.
Right.
So
we're no different than the kids. No,
not at all. I mean, their stresses are different than ours, but but stress is definitely something that, or I feel like, I'm kind of wired to be a little bit more of like a type A, just control. Like there are certain things that I definitely like to have like a handle on or control or whatever. But I definitely have, as I've gotten older, learned you also cannot control everything. And sometimes it's not really worth being uptight about something because, I relate a lot of chronic stress with like high blood pressure, hypertension, things like that. And as I look at people around me that are getting older or whatever, those all connect. And a lot of people don't realize how much those health related issues affect women. You always hear about the men having heart attacks and, but it's like women have it too. And it's, I think, high on our list as far as like, possible causes for like death. Right. And so I'm like, I don't want to be chronically stressed. It's making me have high blood pressure for, my house isn't totally picked up or, whatever it is. Which you carry your stress in different ways for different things, but those little things that I used to care about, I've had to learn to forget about because it would make me go nuts.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things we can drive ourselves crazy. Not only do we have all this stuff going on in our own lives, raising kids and running a household and all that, but then we have so much information being thrown at us we didn't used to. Like,
are you transitioning to the third S?
I don't think so.
Are you sure? Like the social environment, like you don't think some of that plays into all of our...
I don't know. It's just like we shouldn't know as much about like what's going on in the world as we do. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sometimes it is stressful.
Right?
Yeah. This is why I just don't.
I know.
And that's the hard part because balancing and just to pull a thread on a couple of things. Sarah, you're correct. Heart disease is still the number one killer of women. And I don't think we think about it often enough because it's probably not, we talk about it during American Heart Month or when it's popular to talk about it, but cardiovascular disease is still something women need to understand. It can kill you too. And chronic stress is related to systemic inflammation, and systemic inflammation is related to cardiovascular disease. It can be related to dementia. It can be related to challenges with weight resistance. So, weight loss resistance is real and it can be correlated with being chronically stressed. So stress is not just being wired and tired. Stress has a big impact on so many parts of our physiology that we need to better manage it. And it may mean, for me, I don't go on TikTok. I go on Facebook for work, and that's about it. I go on Instagram when I need to. That's about it. But all of the incoming noise, I just have to control what I can control and then let go of the rest.
Yep. Which is, it's a lot. There's just a lot of information out there, Over the years, I've created different rules for myself, just to keep myself in check with like the amount and the type of information that it gets presented to me. And it's like, no, like whether that's setting a timer, because that kind of stuff can be a time suck and you don't even realize how much you've consumed. And sometimes you don't even realize the information that you're consuming is stressing you out.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so you're like, oh, just set a timer and be like, I got 5 minutes. I'll scroll. But if you're not like paying attention, 15, 20, 30 minutes can go by just like that, And with that, I think it's maybe time for a quick little break. Be sure to check out our website at nachofitnesscoach.com, where you can purchase merch and listen to all previous episodes. So we're back, and that compounds over time and adds to all of the day-to-day stress and all the different things. So it is very real, and it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah.
Because it has all those other contributes to all those different other negative health, outcomes or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. Just whatever. It doesn't make you feel good.
No, but the key message should be you are in control. So you have to, not that you can eliminate stress, but what can you do to manage it?
I feel like for some people too, you have to acknowledge that something is causing you stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have not even taken that first step of creating a general awareness of like, wait, why am I getting so wound up and uptight about this? Is this really a big deal? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to learn to let some things go. Right? I mean, or, just if you have those natural tendencies for whatever reason, I mean, sometimes you just kind of got to learn for yourself when you need to chill out.
Yeah.
And that goes, tying into the social connection. Occasionally I'll send a gal pal the song from Elsa, Let It Go. I'll just send that YouTube video and say, girl, you got to let it go because it's eating you up. Let it go and you will be free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
But you have to give yourself permissions, and, you can't always rely on somebody else kind of being your person, but that self-awareness, having some systems or some steps in place that like, okay, I've noticed now that this is stressing me out. Okay. So you've named the problem. Like, what are you going to do about it now? Okay. Well, maybe I have a recurring song, or I have a mantra. I mean, I repeat to myself probably multiple times on a daily basis, the Serenity Prayer, which is...
Yeah, I love it.
I love it too. The first time I ever really ran across it was I was traveling for Cerner, and I was reading Dan Brown, The Da Vinci Code. It was like the book that was out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back in the day where you could not have your electronics powered on for the first 10,000 feet. So you would sit there. Can you imagine back in that day? There was no Wi-Fi on planes. We could not have electronics on while we were on the tarmac. And for the first 10,000 feet, you had everything off. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I was blowing through like People magazines, like too much, right? And they were getting expensive. Bought the book, and it's in there. And I was like, I really like that. And then it's like, I couldn't get it out of my head. And then after I learned that it was the prayer that grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I am not kidding. There are multiple times a day where I'm like, all right, which way is it going to go?
Yep.
Like, but if it's a big deal, go for it.
Yep.
But take that moment to pause and be like, should I let it go or should I not? But now I'm probably going to sing Elsa in my head.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
I mean, it's much shorter. Just to be like, let it go. Let it go. So either one works, but find something for you.
Yeah.
Find something. So
Serenity Prayer is good too.
Yes. I do not have any tattoos, but that if I would ever get one, I've always said like in the inside of my forearm, like a very like beautiful, like cursive serenity would be the only thing I would ever consider. But I'm also just probably never going to pull the trigger on that. So, wishful thinking, but
never say never.
Never say never. That's so true. But that would be the one thing that I would consider. So there you go. All right. Stress. We talked about it.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on stress?
No.
I think we kind of covered
lots of things, but for another time.
Yes, definitely. I mean, any of the stuff we could go deeper, but there's a good kind of 30,000 foot view on things to think about with stress. Okay. So any good resources or books on that topic that you have that you recommend or?
Things like John Kabat-Zinn for thinking about mindfulness and meditation. I definitely encourage people to look at the Headspace app, the Calm app. Andrew Weil has a lot of good resources on stress management. That's where 4-7-8 breathing came from. I think those are some easily accessible resources.
Perfect. That's a good list. Okay. Third S, social connection. All right, because it kind of ties into all of this.
It does.
Without a doubt. Okay, so let's talk about it.
We need people. I think that the pandemic highlighted the fact that social connection is very important. For your listeners who may not know, that the Surgeon General has actually identified social connection as a priority for our country, because the lack of social connection can contribute to morbidity and mortality. So we are social creatures. I'm an introvert generally.
Me too.
And so I recharge my battery when I'm by myself, and then spend time with other people and have that extrovert introvert mix. But I think your community that you connect with on your podcast, the two of you, having that person that you can pick up your phone and call 24/7, that you know someone's going to be at the other end of the line, that connection and bond between people is really important. And I don't think we prioritize it enough. It's not the people that, you like or that you're texting. It's that person who's going to be there when you need them.
That was definitely a realization I had. I had friends I had in high school, then you go to college, you have friends that you collect in high school, your different social groups, different stages of life. You get out into the real world, and then, how some of that maybe comes with you, or you're meeting new people, or you have new friends that you meet through the workplace, or different social connections that you make. Like, every stage of life comes new people into your circle, if you will. Mm-hmm. And there was one point in time where, and then your days change, right? And your responsibilities change. And so the time that I was traveling, it's 80-hour work weeks, right? Because you're flying, you're traveling, you're out of town for days at a time, you come back, and then you're trying to figure out your downtime, charging your battery, resetting for the next week. You only have so much time in the week, and so now all of a sudden this corporate career is competing for your personal time too. And you can't maintain surface level. I mean, you can have surface level relationships with lots of people, but to go deep, your circle has to get quite a bit tighter. Yeah. I feel like as you get older and have different responsibilities and different stages of life. And I remember having dinner with a friend where I was like, I've just learned I'm making it a priority. If I need help at 3 a.m., who do I think will be the person that will actually pick up the phone and answer the call for me? Those are the types of people where it's okay, those are the relationships to keep and go deep with, and
I agree.
You just have, a good handful of those, but you've got, then those are your people.
Yeah.
And those are the people you can call on. Those are your accountability buddies. Who will help you with your habit change. They can be that. They can be your confidant, but having that social circle is important for all of us, because I think it helps keep us grounded, but it also gives you, it's nice to have someone to reflect on too, just to make you recognize that maybe you're not crazy, or that you can bounce ideas off of.
You have different people for different things.
You do.
But it's not the 1,000 people that like your Facebook page.
Right.
That's
exactly.
not the,
Nope. Or the 50 people that like your post or whatever, the movie Social Dilemma was something that, have you seen the Social Dilemma movie?
I have. It's a little scary.
It is a little scary, but it makes sense though. You're like, I don't believe that any of the social media platforms started off what they've become. Yeah. I really do feel like there was that intention of we just need to create connections with people, but then it was how we started interacting with it and how it changed behavior. And the scary things to me now that we have got little kids, that cell phone, that addiction, or how it becomes who they are or who they think they are. And you're like, God, that is wild. And, our local high school just went cell phones off, free. Cell phone free. And I just love it because their minds are developing. They need to focus with the people that are in the room with them. You should not be caring about who liked your post or who saw it.
No. And I worry too that interaction with the device, how are our children learning to interact with individuals? Yeah. I don't know that the social skills are the same as they used to. I know the writing skills aren't. Right. But being able to have a conversation, being able to engage in social discourse, those are things that you can't do when everyone's doing this.
Right.
Doesn't happen.
Yep. Well, and healthy relationships come with conflict. You're not going to be, you're imperfect people, and you're not going to agree on everything. You shouldn't. Right. And so, you have to get those skills to interact with people. That how do you behave when you don't always agree, and how you can still be friends with somebody that's not thinking like you. And, that I feel like is a huge piece that's missing right now, because it's just, but we can bring it back, and we have all the power and the knowledge to just, the adults in the room need to be the ones making the decisions, because the kids are just going to do whatever they're allowed to do.
Right. But that's the unfortunate thing, is most of the adults in the room are also
on their phones,
staring at their phones.
Exactly.
I think this episode's getting a little bit long. I think Kaylee needs a quick little potty break. Find our Nacho Fitness Coach page on Facebook with username Nacho Fit Coach, where you can like, follow, and share our content. And we're back. Like, put it down.
But like we've talked about before, when those adults were growing up and these things were being introduced, there were no adults in the room. Like, there was no concept of like this new technology and how do we raise our kids in this. So, we're in a weird time. It's like, we are aware that this is something that needs to be paid attention to as far as our kids with social media, but we didn't have that. And by no fault of our parents, it just is the way that that it worked out, but nobody was looking out for us.
Well, and we used to just be able to kick kids outside and they can run around. Right. I mean, in the, it was the 80s and 90s, that commercial came on at 10 o'clock at night that like, do you know where your children are? So think of all the social interactions that they had growing up, that they had just from, I don't want to say running around on the streets, but that's basically, like you used to go outside and play.
Right. And they don't do that.
Conflict resolution. And you had to like play together, and you had to like have conversations and work things out and problem solve. But those qualities help you in social connection situations as adults, because you can learn how to interact with others, to have that deep connection with somebody that's not a copy paste version of you, and have, fill that bucket that you need to be connected with people.
Well, and I homeschool my two kids, and we, and homeschoolers, we hate the question that we get asked all the time is that, oh, what about socialization? And it's like, I think so many homeschoolers want to like, be like, oh, I can still socialize my kids. But like, I'm very aware that like, no, my kids are not getting the same socialization as kids in public school. And, for all the great things about homeschooling, that is one that I've always tried to be very aware of, because
it's just different.
People cannot, human beings cannot be socialized at home after a certain point, in those younger years. Yeah, that's where it belongs. But after a certain point in time, like, mom, dad, and siblings aren't going to cut it.
Nope.
So
you got to talk to other people.
They do.
Eventually.
I'm doing my best.
Yes, but
I like to think my kids are I think they're fine.
Yeah, they're socially
They're
fine.
Weird, but aren't we all?
We're all weird.
I went to public school and I turned out pretty darn weird, I'd say.
We're all a little weird.
And part of that socialization could be volunteering, or it doesn't necessarily have to be the school type, but just having opportunities, going to, especially this time of year, going to a food bank and volunteering at a food bank, or finding ways to get back in the community. I think there's a lot of ways we can encourage social connection that will augment homeschooling.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so obnoxious to get that question, is because it's like, I think we want people to understand that like socialization doesn't only have to happen between the hours of 8 and 3 in the public school walls. Like, there are other people that
we can go to the grocery store and talk
like
to the
they can
person.
there are sports, there are there's church, there's all there's so many opportunities to socialize. So
I do like volunteering though, because that is one area of social connection that I feel like has popped up around like the anxiety conversation, that now I'm totally going to probably like botch, but I think there was a research paper that I saw that come out that one of the primary factors that got linked to high levels of anxiety was not feeling a social connection to your community or not having like a deeper purpose, you know, that you are a part of something bigger than yourself. And so I love that you suggested volunteering, because that is a simple way to get involved, to realize you can be a part of something bigger. You can have a purpose, you know, outside, and it helps.
Well, it's it's twofold, because it does, while you are helping others, it
helps you too.
It helps you too.
It does. And there's so many places to volunteer in Kansas City that, I loved working with harvesters because they did such good work, but Boys and Girls Club, you could go volunteer. You could volunteer at the YMCA, lots of homeless shelters. There are great opportunities. And it's also an opportunity for our youth to let them see how other people are navigating life, because it's very easy to live in our own bubbles and not see what other people's lives may be like. And that experience is invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you can find social connection with people in a lot of different places, but that means you also have to go be around other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You do.
So you still have to take control of that and make that intentional, that effort to go put yourself in those situations, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that's where growth happens, and that's where you get a chance to like experience new things. But yeah, super important.
Yeah. And Sarah, you're right about the research. If you're thinking about the Blue Zones, for example, Dan Buettner's work, that community can also be tied to longevity. So it could be community from a faith-based perspective. It could be community from the people who live around you. It can be the community of people that are like-minded or have similar values. But there's a definite correlation between your sense of who you are, your value, your sense of your worth, your sense of longevity, and having those connections in different parts of your life.
I love that you mentioned the Blue Zones, because we did an episode about the Blue Zones and talking about that. Just, it is fascinating when you look and you find all that information that's out there about all those things that contribute to your health and longevity. And, and it's not just how long you live, it's how well you're living.
How well.
While you are alive. And, just, I don't want to become immobile, like I sit on the floor many times a day, just intentionally. So I'm having to get myself back up, like instead of sitting on the couch all the time. And so those little things too, that I feel like you can work into your life.
Yeah.
Simple things, that the breathing for the stress, making sure you're getting consistent with your sleep, finding, even if it's just an hour a month that you're volunteering somewhere, just
giving back.
Just give back. Yeah. Be a part of something bigger, because it does give back to you.
Agreed.
Build your own wellness bucket.
You and your cups and buckets.
I love my bucket. Yeah. With my kindergartner, that's been we have an amazing kindergartner here, and she is there's a weekly life lesson. And so we just recently had the life lesson where it's the bucket filler, like a bucket filler. There's a little book, and there's a couple of different versions of this bucket filler book, but it just talks about how everyone's wearing like this imaginary bucket. And what are you doing throughout the day to fill other people's buckets? And that if you knock over and dip out somebody's bucket, that does not fill yours, and so it's this whole just kind of story, and it's trying to teach the social interactions from very small. And so we talk about actions and decisions, which honestly, I feel like some adults need to hear that message as well. What have you done to be a bucket filler today? And just because you're dipping from somebody else's bucket, that doesn't make you feel better. So let's be kind in our social connections with people we know and then we don't know. Just be happy.
Let's just be happy. Sarah, I love you so much, and we are way over a time. This has been an amazing episode. You could go on for another 2 hours. I have no doubt.
We could, I think. I mean, maybe this is just going to be a seasonal thing. We'll just have Daphne come back on and we'll talk about different areas.
Love that, but we do need to wrap it up.
Okay, so there we go. We hit him. We hit social, sleep, done, and stress. So I love it. I appreciate you. So any final thoughts? Anything that
I would, just to wrap up, I would say between these two episodes, we've covered a framework that I call the 3M: meals, movement, mindset, sleep, stress, and social connection. If you can touch on those every day and just make sure that you are filling your bucket. The more you fill your cup, the better and more easy it will be for you to get back to others.
Yeah, put your own oxygen mask on first.
Right.
There you go. I love it. I love everything about it. So thank you for coming on
Yes,
the Vegan Gym. Check out Daphne's information in our show notes. Connect with her, follow her on social media. So listen to her podcast, all of the things. And so, yes, you're always welcome to come chat with us more.
Thank you.
It does not even feel like this was that long and we could keep going. You're right. So, yay. All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll just have to continue it another time. So that's all we have for today then.
All right.
Until next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to head over to our Instagram at Nacho Fitness Coach and let us know how you feel about the topic. Do you love it or hate it?
Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening. And if you like our podcast, leave us a rating. See you next time.
You've been listening to Euphony Innovatives Sonified.